Hey, this is Eric Johnson with Inbox Mailers and Inbox Hacking. Today we're going to start a brand new series called How to Become a Better Email Marketer. We're going to be covering everything from soup to nuts, from how to choose the best ESP for whatever your situation is, to how to keep your subscribers engaged, how to make more money off of your newsletter, and everything in between. So today we're going to go ahead and get started with the very first episode of How to Choose the Best ESP. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with how to pick the best ESP for your program. There's really no one-size-fits-all approach to this. Let's talk first about what is an ESP. ESP simply stands for an email service provider. And this is different from Gmail, AOL, Yahoo, whoever you use to get your email. This is the platform that you're going to use to collect email addresses and then send out your newsletter to your subscribers. So what's important when you're first starting out is not going to be as important to you as when you're bigger. And generally, whoever you start out with on an email platform is not going to be who you end up. It's a natural progression, and there's nothing wrong with your decision-making process. As you have a small list, you get to a medium-sized list where you need a dedicated IP, and then you need an enterprise-level solution when you're sending tens or hundreds of millions of emails. It's natural to change providers, and sometimes it's not just based on needs, it's based on pricing. Because the pricing you start out with for a company will be one thing, and as you get larger, it becomes unmanageable, and then you just have to shop around, your service, what you have to new providers, and they're going to, generally speaking, give you incredible rates to move your list and your volume over there. So we'll talk about all that stuff as we get through there. So when you're first starting out, right, in general, like the principle of how to choose this stuff is think about what your goals are for your program. How much are you going to be sending? How often are you going to be sending? How big is your list, or how big do you anticipate your list size getting? A lot of this stuff is dependent on if you're going to go very broad or you're going to keep it very small and a niche marketing. Or whatever. So think about how big you think your list can get, and think about how often you're going to send to them, right? When you're small, go ahead and start small. It's going to be hard to screw up selecting an ESP when you're small. All you really need is a shared IP, which is going to make it so you don't have to mess with all of the technical nonsense and technical mumbo-jumbo about email deliverability and making sure that you're sending the right volumes and blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about all that stuff. Just start out with a shared IP with a reputable, well-known ESP like we'll talk about here in a second, and you should be fine. The only caveat to that is think about the content that you're sending, because some email service providers, look at their TNCs, have restrictions on the type of content that they'll let go out, right? So some don't want anything about like dating, or some don't want anything about gambling or crypto or investing and things like that. And the last thing you want to do is spend all the time to get all your stuff set up, all your templates in there, your lists all segmented out, and them to shut you down because you have a policy violation for something that, you're not doing anything wrong, they just don't allow that kind of content on there. So know before you get in there, is your content allowed, on the platform? And if so, you're fine. So getting into some of the providers that we can do here, what do we got on our list? So Beehive, this is, it's not really new, it's a couple years old. This is built by the guys that did Morning Brew, formerly did Morning Brew, and it's built for newsletter people. It has a ton of tools in there that let you better monetize your stuff, and better manage your list and segmentation and things like that. The other nice thing is they can handle I don't know what the max they can handle is, but a couple of the guys on there, I was reading some of the stories, taking 250, 350,000 person lists on there. So it's something nice that you can start with and maybe even scale, with and take it from there. Some of the other ones, ConvertKit, MailChimp, you can start that out for free sometimes. Mad Mimi, Constant Contact, and Campaigner, all really solid, smaller tier, and maybe some of them even go into the medium tier, things like that. Some of these guys will let you get a dedicated IP, so you can just transition over that way, and it's a lot less of a headache or whatever, but just look at the pricing. So let me tell you something about pricing here. So, because pricing when you're small versus pricing when you're huge is dramatically different. So the easiest way to compare pricing through all email service providers is on a CPM basis. And CPM just stands for cost per mil, and a mil is just an advertising term that means per thousand. So it's for every 1,000 emails sent, how much does it cost, right? And it ranges from pennies to dollars, depending on how much you're sending. The more you send, the lower that effective cost per mil is going to be, and the less you send, the higher it's going to be, but your bill is going to be smaller because you're not sending as much. And the logic behind that, people still have to make money, and so you can afford to spend a higher CPM when you're sending a low volume of sends, right? So the way some of these smaller guys do it is they'll say it's say $12 or $59 for up to 5,000 contacts or up to 10,000 contacts. And that sounds great, but all you have to do is, again, think with the end in mind. How big is your list, going to get, you think, or what is your goals to try to get your list to? And then how frequently are you going to send? Because although these things may say up to 5,000, up to 10,000, they may have frequency caps on them. And so like you can only send twice per month or once per week or whatever it is. Or alternatively, what they'll do is they'll say for so many email sends, per month. And you can boil it down to, there just by doing the math on there. How many, what's your list size times how many times you're going to send is your total email sends or whatever. So you'll have it figured out, that way. So next thing is, right, getting into as you grow. Why would you need to change providers when you get a little bit bigger? Sometimes, and this is the most common thing, is you need a dedicated IP. Why do you need a dedicated IP? You have to, once you get large enough, some providers will not let you stay on their shared IP. If your metrics are not absolutely perfect and pristine, they're not going to let you stay on their shared IP. A shared IP just means that there's a pool of people that are going to use the same IP address, and this is how the inbox providers like Gmail, AOL, Yahoo, and things like that, that's how they track and rate the deliverability or the trust of that program, right? So everybody's using the same IP. It's going to be judged the exact same way because it's all going on the same IP. And so as long as everybody's sending practices are great, everybody's being cool, and everything like that, the email gets delivered. If a large portion of the people are not following best practices, they're have high complaint rates, they're sending to spam traps, they're getting low open rates, it's going to affect the deliverability of the entire pool. And so once you get out of those ranges, or you're sending too much volume, they say you need to be on a dedicated IP because you're affecting the pool too much. And so a dedicated IP just means that you have one IP that you're sending off of for your program, and your sending practices are going to determine the deliverability of that. And so sometimes you have 5, 10, 12 different IPs, dedicated IPs, depending on how big your program is. Some of the other reasons that you may want to move up is they don't have the integrations that you need. Maybe you need to integrate into a affiliate tracking portal, or you need to integrate into your payment processor if you sell memberships, or you need to plug into your CRM and things like that. A lot of these smaller guys, they have basic level integrations, but they're not going to do something more custom or more outside of the box, that you can do. And so some of them too won't handle the volume. And so as your volume gets too big, they just don't have a plan that supports that. And then also it gets cheaper as you send more. And so sometimes you can negotiate, sometimes you can't. Just depends on the platform. And so like if you're with one of these large, gigantic box store type ISPs like MadMimi or MailChimp or Constant Contact, they're not going to negotiate with you on your pricing until you get to a certain level. But some of these smaller guys or different size guys who cater towards the size of your list and the frequency of your volume and things like that, they may negotiate with you. Again, just keep in mind, and this is universal, generally speaking, the more that you send, the lower your CPM is going to be. So your bill is going to get bigger, but the cost to send each email is going to be way less. And so as you get to different tiers of list size and volume going out, you need to think about that as like, well, these guys aren't meeting our needs, and we could probably save some money or whatever. Yes, it's going to be a hassle to migrate over, but hopefully when we migrate, it'll be for a long time, and we're going to save a lot of money, doing it. Who are some of the people that I would recommend in this range, right? So campaigners still a really strong group in this range or whatever. And when I'm saying this range, I'm saying, let's say we have over 100,000 people, and we're sending 1 to, let's say 4 times to 10 times, 20 times per month. These is in that range, right? So you got Klaviyo. Klaviyo does a lot of different stuff. It's a whole marketing automation platform. A lot of the groups that I'm going to talk about right here they move from email providers to marketing platforms, really. They're going to handle your SMS, your push, your marketing automation. Some of them even have a CRM, built into there like that. So Active Campaign is another one. HubSpot is another one. And like I said, Campaigner's really strong. Klaviyo is really strong in there. And so really, at this point, you have to look at, like, again, what your needs are as a program. Are you selling stuff? Are you just selling advertising? Are you selling memberships? Do you need to integrate with a CRM, or do you need a CRM and things like that? And so that's what you're going to be thinking about with this stuff. The next level is you get larger, not just larger, but more complex, right? And so, again, sometimes these platforms will integrate out of the box with other big name brands, right? But maybe you have a homegrown CRM, or maybe you have a homegrown reporting system, or maybe you have a homegrown affiliate tracking thing, or payment processors, so things like that that you want to integrate into your mailing platform, so you can do simple stuff like track your stats better, look inside of the platform and see how much money you made, look inside of a third-party stats thing and see how much revenue you're generating for all this stuff. And I tell you this, as you get larger and more complex, there's all sorts of other stuff you want to do. Like, you want to put custom fields on these contact records. You want to have what we call custom objects. So every time somebody purchases something, we attach an object to that contact, so we can see, show me all of my buyers, show me, and then easily total how much have they spent. And so you can have these lists and better segmentation, things like that. Sometimes you can't, in smaller platforms, you can't also do complex segmentation, right? So you can't say, show me all the people who have been active, have opened or clicked within the last, say, 30 to 60 days, but who haven't bought a product or are new. And so a lot of the larger platforms, you can write easy to write, but custom queries or custom segmentation rules to set out your different lists, or to build automations, or to do all sorts of stuff. And so generally speaking, the more complex something is, the more features you're going to get, the more it's going to cost or whatever. But again, your CPM will go down, and so it sort of balances itself out based on that. So like I said, if you don't move, I'm not advocating moving all the time, but if you don't move, a lot of times you're not going to have a lot of negotiating power getting your CPM down. So you want to make sure you do that. So who are some of the people in this group, right? The places we use right now primarily we send between 400 and 800 million emails per month or whatever. We send the bulk of that on a platform called Iterable. We love Iterable. We don't have a paid sponsorship with Iterable. I wish we did. The reason we love them is because they're very API heavy. We can connect anything into this and push anything out of it. You can attach custom fields. You can attach custom objects. You can do a ton of reporting. You can do complex queries. You can do almost anything out of Iterable. We just love it. It's worked great for us. The next thing, Salesforce. Salesforce is great. Marketing Cloud, or ExactTarget was what it used to be called. They're great, especially if you use the Salesforce CRM or whatever, because then everything's integrated and your lists are going together. You can build automations and yada yada like that. If you're not using that, I wouldn't recommend it personally, because there are some drawbacks, but the drawbacks are far outweighed by the benefits if you use the CRM. If you're not, I would never use it. SendGrid is another big one. That's great for just all around. It'll let you do a lot of great stuff. You have a lot of flexibility even if you're small or you're big. So I think we've covered a ton of stuff here in how to select an ESP, whether you're small or whether you're big. I mean, the biggest thing, like I said, what I tell everybody, the hardest thing to do with anything is get started. And so just pick one of the ones I said to you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, pick Mad Mimi, pick Campaigner, pick MailChimp, or whomever. Just get started or whatever. It's going to last you at least a year or so. And make sure you can scale up from there. Make sure your content is approved by the terms and conditions, and you should be all set. And then just remember, you're going to have to change eventually. When you get a dedicated IP, you're going to have to change again when your volume gets too high. So just have those expectations. It's not a big deal. And just get started and roll from there.